Hey everyone, and welcome to the Human Design Podcast with me, your host, Emma Dunwoody. I'm a qualified master coach and human behaviour specialist, as well as being a qualified human design coach. And I work with clients every single day to answer the big questions. Who am I? Why am I here? And what is my purpose? I also assist them to transition from the person they think they should be to the person they really are on the inside. I teach people how to actually live their design instead of just knowing it. And if this is something that you want to do too, well, stay tuned or reach out for private coaching or Human Design Unpacks, where I show you exactly how to live your design. Hey everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Human Design Podcast. Before we get into today's episode, I want to share something really amazing with you. And it's actually one of our new Millions of Millionaires sponsors. So to introduce this body graph chart software that we've been using that's been mind-blowing. So I want to welcome the amazing Taylor Dyson, who is my incredible operations manager. Welcome along, Taylor.
Hi, thanks for having me.
I'm so excited to have you here. This is actually something that we implemented when?
April.
Yeah.
And this year.
We were just trialing it out because they'd reached out to us in regards to sponsoring the podcast or something like that, wasn't it? And so it kind of wasn't even on our radar, and we tried it out and we had such low expectations. And then what happened?
Well, I remember sending you a message going, Emma, why are we not using this? Because I was mind blown. You know, we get a lot of requests for stuff like that. And, you know, there's new softwares all the time. And I clicked on it, like you said, with very low expectations. And I started looking through what they can do. And I got so excited. You know, the MG in me was like, oh my God, we have to use this. And I saw the potential of it. And it has delivered more than expected. It's really awesome.
Amazing. Now, before we get into the actual numbers, because I know numbers with Taylor is a thing in our business. She loves to share all the numbers. Let's just tell the listeners exactly who it's for and what it is.
Yeah, so it's a great tool for anyone who uses human design in their business. So if you're a human design reader, a human design coach, or just someone who uses human design in your business, if you incorporate it into whatever you do, it's a way for you to embed an actual human design chart tool into your website. So, you know, if you want someone to get their human design chart, you probably send them to an outside platform somewhere, go to this website, put in your details and get your chart, whatever that platform might be. There's a couple big ones. And what's cool about this is that it allows you to put that tool on your own website and it's yours. So when someone comes and, puts their information into your website, they get their chart, and then you can hook it up to your email list, to your newsletter. You can have it linked to your own content. You can customize the reports afterwards that they get, so it's your own descriptions of what, this type is or this profile. So that's kind of what it is.
Oh my God, I love it. And it's so cool because I actually remember when Jenna Zoe, because it must be the same software that Jenna Zoe used and before anyone else. Yeah, right. And I was always like, wow, her chart looks so beautiful and it's on her website. That's so cool. So yeah, when we started using it, I was like, this is beautiful. I'm really excited that we can do it. But let's talk hard numbers. Like we have had some serious success with this, just adding this to our business. So tell everyone a little bit about the growth that we've experienced through using this.
Yeah. So since implementing it into our website in April, there have been over 4,000 people that have downloaded their chart through the website. And that's unique. That's not, someone who does it twice, because a lot of people, they'll go back because they won't download the PDF or something, or they lost it or misplaced it. That's unique chart downloads. So it's even more for people doing it twice. And it's been really amazing. It's more than tripled the size of the email list. And, you can set up sequences afterwards for people to, give them more information and keep everything in-house.
Yeah. And because one of the really big things for us is obviously human design made simple. So it gives us the opportunity to give our way of teaching human design directly to the people who want it. And I love that. I love that every single person that wants to get their chart, that downloads it, we can then support them on their journey straight away, which is, of course, what you set up, because you're amazing, to make sure that not only do they get their chart, but they also get this support, free content support that helps them as they're new to human design and on their journey. So beautiful. So how do people access this? What's it called? And I know that there's a benefit for listeners of the podcast.
Yes. So you can go to the link in the show notes, or you can go to bodygraphchart.com. And they have been kind enough to give the listeners of the Human Design Podcast a 50% off discount for 12 months, which is huge because it's already inexpensive to begin with. And then the 50% discount is going to put it at $25 a month. That's in US dollars. So wherever you are in the world, it'll be, a little bit different, but 50% off for 12 months. And the code is Human Design Podcast. And we'll put that in the show notes too for everyone. And one of the other things I want to say that's really cool about this chart tool is that it's 100% customizable, and it actually gives Chiron and the 4 arrows, which is what a lot of chart tools don't do that. So that's one thing that a lot of people are drawn to when they go to get our chart from our website is, I can get the arrows because of it, or my Chiron gates.
I love that. It's so cool. So check out the show notes, people. Get on it, because really it is such a powerful and, as Taylor says, inexpensive tool. Like, it paid for itself in the first 2 days, I seem to remember, or first day, I seem to remember. So it's so valuable, and it gives you the opportunity to really build your brand and your communication with your clients. So thank you. Go check it out. Hey, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of the Human Design Podcast with me, your host, Emma Dunwoody. And today I have a fascinating guest with me to talk all about toxic-free living. Is that something you've heard about yet? Because if you haven't, we're about to change your life. And I'm pretty sure a lot of you may have, but I know this has been a huge journey for me understanding this. So Kate Middleton, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, well, hello, Emma. It's been a long time, but I feel like we just spoke yesterday. Thanks for having me on. I feel honored to be here.
Well, I am so excited to talk to you. And, just kicking off for my listeners, obviously this is the Human Design Podcast. So if it's cool with you, can I just share a little bit about your design?
Oh my gosh, of course. I would love that.
Oh my God. So as I was looking at your chart this morning, I was like, this is exactly the chart that I talk about all the time when people are like, well, I'm a projector, so I can't this and I can't that. And then I see your chart, and I literally have an unpack later today with a manifestor that has such similar energy to you. And it's this, so your chart, I love this chart, because one of the things that I think is so important about the message that we share around human design is that you can't just put yourself in a bucket. You can't get out of one dogma and into another. And your chart is so freaking cool, because you're a splenic projector. And I literally have a session, a one-on-one unpack later this afternoon with a splenic manifestor, and it's one gate that changes your chart and this other person's chart. So from a projector to a manifestor, and it's not like it's completely mirrored, but there are so many similarities. And I think one of the things, just looking at your chart as a 3/5 splenic projector, having the root center and the will center defined, you're going to be a projector that has quite a bit of energy, you're going to be one that is also determined and can get shit done. And probably doesn't resonate with the more almost like the more mainstream projectory stuff. Does that resonate with you?
Yeah, exactly. 100%.
Yeah, I love it. And let's start I want to get onto the topic of toxic-free living, because it's so freaking important. One of the things that I know people are talking a lot about at the moment, and I had an experience of this with a friend of mine many years ago, of many people thinking that they're gluten intolerant, but they're not. They're glyphosate intolerant, which is a pesticide. And we don't know these things. We're not aware of these things going on. And I love your chart, because you're the 4426, and it's all about helping humanity survive and evolve and thrive through, wellness and that sort of thing. So I love that this is something that is in your chart. You're also a cross of rulership, meaning that you're a real guide, you're really guiding people. And my journey with toxic-free living, and then I'm going to let you sort of introduce yourself. I haven't even let you introduce yourself. I'm so excited. I just wanted to jump into the conversation. So we'll get to that. Is that I read this book. A friend of mine gave me this book many, many years ago called In Defense of Food. And it absolutely changed my life because it opened my eyes to the industrialization of food and the manipulation of the, marketing of the food companies, and really taking us away and giving us misinformation through research and what looked like the medical industry and all of these things. And I think that was a real moment where I was like, wow, I really need to do my own research and start to uncover the truth, which is one of my highest values, about what's really going on with food and what I'm eating. And it was really, really, really big for myself and for my family. So I would love to hear your story with, like, what was that moment, or what made you decide that this whole toxic-free living was something you wanted to start to not only live? The other thing I loved, a human design geek out moment, that on your website, you talk a lot about how it's your self discovery, or your experience, or very much talking to this journey you've been on. And again, as a 3/5, that's exactly what people want to hear from you. So the projectors out there, if you want to know how to market yourself, go and check out Katherine's website or Kate's website, because this is the perfect example of how to, promote yourself. So tell us a little bit about your journey, about being, being fascinated or going down this rabbit hole of toxic-free living, and, where you are today. Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh my gosh. First of all, I just wanted to thank you again for having me on the show. What a beautiful connection we had the first time we ever met. And I know we're just continuing to see that in one another. And I hope that we can combine forces, and just like you unveiling the true me, I'm here to unveil the true everyone else within everyone else out there.
Yeah.
I am the projector. I am kind of like a little shining light of like what is to come of yourself. But a brief introduction of myself, and then kind of going into, how I kind of geared down and went down the rabbit hole of this journey that I am on. Basically, yes. Hi, my name is Kate Middleton. My friends, family members, a lot of my audience members know me as KB. I am the host also of the Just Being Honest podcast show, which Emma was a guest on a couple of months ago, and it was beautiful. So please go check that episode out. But wow, guys, I am a toxic-free lifestyle advisor and a mindset coach. Here I am. And it just follows just what Emma just said, is I am your guide to basically unveil that truth of health and wellness within you. Yes, seems very vague, but I personally believe that we live in a society. Y'all have seen it, felt it within the deep, vessels of all those veins you have. There can be a lot of stagnant energy out there. And, by the things that we consume physically, consume mentally, right? You were talking about glyphosate. All of that bombards us over time, right? Whether it's food, beauty products, personal products, relationships, environment, what environment are we living in, right? Cleaning products. I have basically a list of laws, KB's laws, that I follow, and I work with, people one-on-one, and I kind of, I guess you could say, preach about. They're my non-negotiables. It's kind of like the do ways. So with that being said, that is who I am in a nutshell. You can get more information, obviously, on my website. But my journey, and I call that my breakdown in order to find my breakthrough.
Yeah.
And
love it.
I think this is very important for everyone to kind of really become conscious. Not that none of us are, always conscious, because we always are. We have the ability to be truly awakened, truly conscious, but we make decisions and we live our lives every single day based on the subconscious, in my personal belief. So that being said, my breakdown to my breakthrough happened multiple times, but I have to say, like many of you guys, I didn't really open up my eyes to witness that the tests kept coming in, right? I wasn't learning the lessons that were coming into my life, you know. Couple of examples. I grew up, I was implanted onto this earth in the human experience, right? Starseed here, waving my hands.
Love it.
I was planted on this earth in the human experience. Grew up in a, mid-range Midwest town, but I grew up in a pretty dysfunctional family. And I know everyone defines dysfunction as many different ways, but I think as a young child who's super sensitive, very dolphin child, it really became stagnant within every vessel of my body, as we talked about earlier. The body does keep the score. And as the smiley face of the family, it really created to bombard my whole endocrine system. And over time, that dysfunction of how a father, talks to a daughter, how a father or husband talks to a wife, family dynamics. My sisters and I, we're close now, but we were always screaming at each other, probably because we were processing what was going on in the household. My parents, I never saw love between them. And that led me again on the next path of life of who I decided to commingle with, right? Friendships and, perfectionism. That's what a lot of people don't realize, that's toxic energy. My relationship with money, because of what I saw, how my dad dealt with money, being overly frugal, right? And not spending within your worth. Guys, that's another form of toxicity, because when you don't show your worth, you cannot attract and mirror what is meant to come to you, right? So that led me onto relationships, as in dating, right? I was in a sexually abusive relationship. And that one really took me downhill to the point where not even kidding you, I was on the verge of suicide. I traveled across the country just to heal myself. And, it was a really eye-opening experience, because within that journey across, healing myself, that was just the start, and traveling to Southeast Asia and learning from other people that love truly exists within yourself. It's in the here and the now. And then advocating by learning over there, because I did get very sick when I was over there. I got parasites. Okay. What am I going to deal with? I'm such a sensitive being. I'm not going to go to antibiotics, right? Because I was looking into, after that process, antibiotics. What do antibiotics do to ourself in the end when we keep putting that Band-Aid effect on our bodies, right?
Yeah, it's destroying our microbiome.
Totally. And so I learned when I was overseas, I was terribly, terribly sick, to the point where I was learning all these beautiful holistic mechanisms to heal myself, and how, natives would use those over time. So then, of course, I went down to rabbit holes, and, I still wasn't fully healed, but I decided to move around the country, right? Where is my place in life? Environment. I talk about toxic environments, right? That's another point of my laws. The environment that you are in, right? What are you clinging on? The roommates that you're with, right? Is it serving you? Is it distracting you? Is it giving you a good message? Energetically, what are you feeling, right? Your gut, your intuition knows the best, right? So I'm just telling you a little bit about my journey, but another big wake up was my Saturn return. Right? I got terribly sick with black mold, was in bed for probably a year. And that is when I was like full force changing my life. And I was always a healthy being, but I was like, clean it out, right? I'm sick of my body having reactions, my autoimmune flare-ups. I'm sick of it. I sat down, I meditated every single morning. It's become a huge part of my life and how I run my whole central nervous system. Because y'all, like, there's a Kansas girl coming out at me. You guys, the way that you find your value and your worth, the way that you create boundaries with yourself, toxic free living, it's not just glyphosate, right?
Mm.
But we all have that within our life in so many compounding interests of ways, right? Maybe it's a husband. Maybe we know we're not right in that relationship, right? Maybe there's an alcoholic in our life, but we're, just
Tolerating it.
enabling them, right?
Mm.
Maybe it's yourself. Maybe you're giving your energy to other people before yourself. It's when you discover that worth in that inner child, because it does go back to my inner child a lot.
Mm.
When you discover what that is, you can then map on to the next part of your life, which is the healing mechanisms, the holistic healing, putting a new food group in front of you, right? And figuring out that, yes, it's a good way to start eating an apple, but maybe you can get one that's organic and not sprayed. Right. And there's so many tips and tricks to learn. But yes, my question to everyone is, this world can be very hurtful, right? In so many different ways, but you can be hurtful to yourself too. I have a great quote, which is, every day you have a choice to make. And of those choices make you. And those choices come up in the way you spend your dollar, right? What organizations you're supporting, and the way that you speak with one another, the friends that you're around, right? So many different ways. So that's just the beginning of my story. My story continues on and on and on.
Mm.
But here we go. Here we are today.
Oh my God, I love
just
it.
being honest.
I love it. I love it. And I love the bigger picture as well. It's not just the food, it's not just the people, it's not just the environment, it's that whole story. And, I think that is spot on, especially, being a 3-5 myself, as you're speaking, I'm just sort of seeing my own experiences of this unfold in my mind. And I think it's so true. People, people aren't taking enough responsibility for the toxic environment or the toxic food or the toxic people that they allow themselves to be exposed to. I think this is something that so often people think, well, there's nothing I can do about it. And it's so not true. I think the first step is always to educate yourself, educate yourself and understand that there are a bunch of choices. I was actually saying to my husband just the other day, wow, it's been, for us, it's probably been almost 20 years now that we really changed the way we live in many, many ways. And, we have a 15-year-old and an 11-year-old son who have no allergies, who have, that are really healthy and well. And, I genuinely believe it's got to do with the food that we've fed them all these years, just being conscious. And it's not been perfect, don't get me wrong. However, the conscious choices and the choices that we've taught them over the years, especially choosing, we, as much as possible, eat organic, and we educate ourselves on what's really good for the body as opposed to, what people are trying to tell us. We've definitely taught them about, how do the people around you and the environments make you feel, because that matters. So I love everything that you were saying. I'd love to hear your rules. What are your rules for a toxic-free life?
Oh my gosh. Well, first and foremost, one of my biggest rules is that you have to be open to change, creating new habits, because that's the only way to create, I hate to use the word enlightenment, but true clarity, right?
Yeah.
True clarity of what's going on, eyes wide open.
Yeah.
So that is just one of them. But as I mentioned before, my laws begin with all of the bullet points of, the food aspect. It's not in this order. It's not in this order at all. But, it has to do with food, personal care products, right? Beauty, cleaning products, home environment, relationships.
Yeah.
Okay. So those are just some of the bullet points that I go into, but if you want to break it down, if we want to go into one subject.
Yeah, why don't we have a look? Like, what are the things, and maybe even we can either go deep into one or just, top level on a few, but I will just love to hear some of your insights into, I mean, I know for us, again, cleaning products has been a massive deal for us. Like literally my husband and I used to argue about it because he'd like, but things aren't as clean or the clothes aren't as clean. And I'm like, I don't give a shit because we don't have the toxins on our body. So we argued about it for ages. And now like all of this time on, he's like, whew, thank God, you thank goodness you won that fight. So maybe we could even look at, I think like let's start with skincare, and then maybe we'll go to food. Like, what are people looking out for? Because a lot of skincare products say that they're natural and that they do things like not tested on animals, but then they miss all the not great things that are in there. So maybe let's start with skincare. And what are the things that people can look out for to maybe swap out the old and bring in the new product?
Yeah, great. So that's a very unregulated market. Especially I live in the Americas, and especially over here, there's not as many ingredients or chemical ingredients that are banned than they are anywhere else. I know you're in Australia and you guys probably have a lot fresher, cleaner, more innovative items out there, but cosmetics, let's use cosmetics as an example. Most cosmetics contain carcinogenic and endocrine hormone disrupting chemicals in them. And if people don't, the hormones is the endocrine disruptors, right? So think about that. You are putting all those items on your body, right? So if you're doing a skincare routine, say you're doing, the base layer of the serum, and then maybe you're doing a lipid barrier. People are like, what's going on here? What is she talking about? And you're putting another serum on, and then you're putting maybe a retinol at night, or, what have you, sunscreen and, SPF and a tinted moisturizer. Okay, that's just your face, right? Maybe on your body, then you're putting on like a lotion, and then, oh my gosh, maybe you have this like glitter ball thing. I don't know. I'm just throwing stuff out there.
Yeah,
right?
I love it. Because this is what people are doing all the time. They're putting lots of stuff on and not realizing that their skin, isn't our skin like the biggest organ in the body? And we just don't realize that every single thing that we put on our skin is going straight into our bloodstream.
100% bingo, sister. You hit the nail on the head. What you put on your body absorbs directly into your body, your organs, right? Hormone disrupting chemicals in them. So my tip is to look for mineral-based or organic cosmetics. It's very simple. The kicker with that, you were mentioning something briefly, was marketing will get you. The words will get you. So for instance, if something says like natural ingredients, it's the same as in a food product that says natural flavoring. So you have to be very cautious. What does that natural ingredient mean? Derived from?
Exactly, because MSG is a natural ingredient. So they can say natural flavoring and it's MSG, and MSG is not good for you.
No, absolutely not. So reading the labels is key. And don't be the consumer. This is a big test, because I at times feel like I almost do it myself when you're shopping for something and you're reading the ingredients, right? And then you forget that there's like the other part that says like also like way down below, and it's very small. It's like added ingredients, and it's like, blah, 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 like it's basically the alphabet written out, and you don't even know what that means, but your eyes start to glaze over, right? Well, guess what? You have homework to do. Either say, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to even like buy that product because it has too many ingredients in there that I can't even pronounce. That means that was made up, not derived. It's not even made in nature, but you have such a beautiful homework buddy available to y'all on the web, and it's called the Environmental Working Group. And if you go to the ewg.org, it has a great list of the safest cosmetics.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, or you can search what you're looking for, the brand you're looking for in their search bar, and it will tell you the rating, right? And it'll give you a complete breakdown of what ingredient, what that means, what is, that a culprit of, like, is it a carcinogen? Is it gonna, make your hair fall out, whatever, So that's a really easy step. I mean, that's given to you guys for free, but, and all they ask for, this is another homework I'm going to give to you guys. All they ask for is for you to sign a petition. If something is important to you, cereals, for instance, for kids, like, would you like glyphosate out of cereals? I'm working on that change right now with our youngest of cereal swaps, because a lot of the times, I know, Emma, you as a parent, when we talk about things, products, cosmetics, I was, a young girl at once, and we did sleepovers and we gave makeovers to each other, and you want what your friends have, or you want what's advertised. So how do you have that conversation with your kids? Right. Yeah. Same with cereal. Kids you can pack them a lunch, but they'll still go to school and switch food at the lunch table. Right. How do you make that conversation? Step one, another one of my laws, lead by example.
Yeah.
You can't always tell your kids what to do. You can't always tell your friends, your family members what to do. You can lead by example and see the change that occurs within you and your health and your wellness and your body mobility, your body function, your sexual desire. Guys, that's a big one. Okay.
Yeah.
And you can truly make the change with that alone.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's definitely something with my kids. I mean, where we've moved to now, they probably feel, in inverted commas, normal. Whereas where we were in Sydney, like, they weren't allowed, they had to have whole foods. They had to, when they got lunch, it was like a wholemeal roll with, sourdough bread with salad and, all that sort of stuff. And their friends would have all of these things that are in freaking plastic wrappers full of shit. And my kids would be like, I want what he's having, and I'm like, nah, you just can't. And in the long run, and it's not to say that we completely, like, we love chocolate. So we would eat chocolate, and the entire family would have some chocolate every single day, but it's all organic. It's naturally, like, my favorite chocolate is literally made in the town that I live in, and it's all natural. And it also has, other good things like, mushrooms and all sorts of really cool things in it as well. And the kids, the chocolate that they eat, it's again, it's organic, it's high quality and low in sugar. And this is the thing, like, I totally agree with what you said. Like, kids don't listen to what we say, they watch what we do. That's how we learn how to be human, And I think that you're absolutely spot on. It's that really starting to demonstrate and be the role model and let them make their own decisions. One of the things that I've seen with my 15-year-old is, like, he's gone down he's old enough now that he goes out and he spends time with his friends. And I remember he came home one day after eating something like, I don't know, KFC. And he's like, Mom, I just feel disgusting. And I'm like, yeah, well, that's what happens when you eat that food. And then I'm like, imagine what happens or how you would feel if you ate that every day, like a lot of people, or every week. Imagine how that would feel. So I feel like him and my kids having the experience and then helping them to see what it would be like if they felt like that all the time has been really helpful. I love that my kids are the ones that go for the healthier options. Probably not my little one quite so much, but my big kid for sure. And again, it's just like you say, it's through being the role model that's really helped.
So Emma, I kind of want to jump into that if you don't mind.
Yeah, please.
It's about, and I love this, the compound interest, right? The compound interest of habits. And when I talk about choices, and I'll use myself as an example, my mom was a functional nutritionist growing up. And so, of course, at the time, you're like, like, why do I have to have the wheat bread, back when it was like healthy, right? We're like, why do I have to have this? Why do I have to have that? I don't get to have a Lunchable, all those things. And I hated it. And I had to make myself peanut butter and jelly every morning, and, it's about the compound interest over time. You cannot tell your kids necessarily what to do. You can pave the way for them with education. It's our responsibility to be educated. We're the ones buying them the food, right?
Yeah.
They don't have jobs, right? They can switch food at lunch. But with that being said, it sets them up for a path in the future that is successful. The health industry it's not well, let's just say. Everything is based upon symptoms. Everything is based upon individual, symptoms, and it's not about the body-mind connection. And so
100%.
that's about choices again. It's not just about the food, but it's about you leading by example for how you maybe cope with stress. What are your coping mechanisms? Are they creating more toxicity in your life? As in, this is just a broad example, are you becoming more of an alcoholic? Are you becoming more of a drug addict? Are you just numbing away pain? Are you just avoiding situations? Or are you really tapping in, maybe journaling it, maybe doing art, maybe going for a walk? Your kids see this, maybe taking a bath, maybe going to yoga. I don't know, whatever it is. The younger civilizations, your family, your friends see this. So it's about making those choices every single day. Because I know me as a young child, I hated those things, right? But as you get older, you crave it. You're like, I'm so used to it that I'm like, oh my gosh, I go to the farmer's market. I'm like, this radish is the best radish I've had, and I'm craving things like that, right?
Yeah.
You crave things like radishes, and people ask me, oh, what do you use? What do you do on your face and stuff? I'm like, it's the lifestyle I live. I live a very basic lifestyle. Cosmetics, I live a very basic lifestyle. I try to get sleep. I try to get, all the water in me. It's the water that you drink.
Yeah.
But leading by example by educating yourself and not being lazy. I'm just going to throw it out there. Stop being lazy. Stop letting the higher corporations win. You have a choice in everything that you do.
It's very true, and I think that oftentimes we're afraid to throw out that word lazy. And ultimately it does come down to, and the way I like to look at it, it's all about responsibility. Are you taking the responsibility to educate yourself, or are you just willing to give your power away to the people that are telling you what to think and what to eat and what's true? And at the end of the day, I always say, the evidence is in the results. The evidence is in the results. Ooh. And you want to pay attention to the results that you're getting. And I definitely know, one of those, and I grew up, both my parents were in advertising. My first career was in advertising. So I saw everything, behind the curtain. And I worked for two of the, I worked for the largest free-to-air TV network. And then another one of the TV networks here, as well as a number of advertising agency. And I worked on FMCG, so fast moving consumer goods. So I saw it from the other side. And I remember thinking really, really young, I can remember hearing about the way advertisers promote products. And I was afraid. I was afraid that I was going to be manipulated into thinking and believing something that wasn't true. And as a kid, I didn't realize how freaking switched on I was. I was instantly cynical of the advertising industry. And I didn't even want to go into advertising, but of course I just followed my conditioning. Not my parents, I followed my conditioning until I made a choice that was more aligned to my heart than my, conditioned self. And I want to go to this cereal piece, or even the way that the food industry, they pull out a certain thing that's bad, like fat. Oh my God, fat is so good. Fat, you have to have good fat. Your brain is made of fat. Fat is really important. But it's all marketing, it's all marketing. It's like even with the, let's say with what's going on in the environment right now, this whole story about, it's cows farting that are destroying the environment. Like, oh my God, no, it's industrial farming that's destroying the soil. That means that the carbon's not being drawn down from the atmosphere. Like, and these things are all readily available for us to go and educate ourselves. And I do feel like this is something that is part of my mission. I want people to go out and start to educate themselves. And through this journey, and I just kind of want to come back to the skincare thing, through this journey, you might have challenges because you're going to have to go against the tide. Like one of the things for me personally is I don't wear a lot of makeup. Like I literally will wear, and it's an organic, natural Australian brand that I use. It's called Inica. And I don't wear foundation. I don't wear any of those things. And like I'm 47. So sometimes even now, just before we hit recording, I'm like, oh God, sorry, I look a bit tired. Like sometimes I'll kind of find myself picking on myself and I'm like, oh my God, by whose standards, Emma? Like, oh yeah, no, I'm sweet with my standards. Like I'm good. So oftentimes when we're educating ourselves on these things, it's going to feel uncomfortable, right? Because you have to go against the tide, but you need to take responsibility.
Oh yeah. It's going to feel uncomfortable, but guess what? Like you start living your life when you live out your comfort zone. It's just like, during COVID, it was very, very evident, when I started to live outside my comfort zone, as in I started to be like, whoa, this relationship is actually really toxic in my life. This environment, this workplace or whatever, even this person I'm working with, like it's not the relationship I'm meant to have. It's taking me down. It's turning me into someone I'm not. Maybe you're talking to someone way too often, but it's not talk, it's gossip, right?
Yeah.
Those things compound over time. And if you go against the grain, it can be very uncomfortable because you can feel very lonely in a world that is very authentic sometimes. If that makes sense. And so the more that you become yourself and basically dance to the beat of your own drum, the more that people see you.
And the more you're going to call in the people that are like that, I think that's the thing that most people fear is that they, like if they start to take responsibility, educate themselves, go against the tide, that they will feel lonely and, not a part of the group. But then you find your people, right?
Right. And then, but once you like with anything, like say it's standing up for animal rights or standing up for, getting glyphosate out of cereals, right? When you sign those petitions, when you talk to other people about what you've learned, you're excited about it, going against the grain doesn't feel like going against the grain. It's just basically, advocating what is right. And you give them those other people like aha moments, right?
Yeah.
And then they say, I can do that too. You mean all you have to do is take baby steps? Just do a little at a time, another KB law, right?
I love that.
Baby steps. You don't have to do every single topic. Maybe we first start out with bam, this one, skin and beauty, right? You use that the most, right? Maybe it's relationships, So
what about food? So I know, again, this is something that blew my mind when I started going down this rabbit hole. And this was the first rabbit hole that I went down, as I say, nearly 20 years ago. And in an attempt to heal my mental health, like it's the first place I went with meditation, gratitude, and then I completely changed the way I ate. And I was lucky because I grew up with a dad who cooked everything from scratch. We didn't eat fast food. We didn't eat pre-prepared food. So I was already lucky, like you said earlier, like I already had the habit ingrained within me. But one of the things that I was blown away with is just starting to read the back of packets. And I think it was actually, I love Jamie Oliver. And I remember him saying once that, if there's any more than 8 ingredients, then put it back because, there's too much stuff in it. And I remember like there's things, and still to this day, I love going to the supermarket, especially where we live, because we live in a very, very conscious food kind of place. So the products are great. And I still look at the back of packets and I'm looking for things like, if anything says vegetable oil, I'm not going to take it. I'm not going to use it because it's hydrogenized oil, which is carcinogenic. So could you give the listeners a few ideas of like, well, how can they eat cleaner? How can they, like, what are the specific things that they might be looking for? What are the baby steps that they can take to try and clean up their diet? Some practical steps.
Okay. So great example. First and foremost, reading labels, going back to, if I cannot pronounce it, I probably should not be ingesting it.
Yeah, because it was probably made in some sort of a lab instead of in nature.
Yeah. So how to start with food. The priority basically, it starts here, because you don't have to throw everything out of your kitchen, but you can take baby steps. What do you eat the most of? Maybe, produce, right? So where are you buying that from? Try to buy these are probably one of my top 2, locally grown food in natural environments within the appropriate season, free from toxic chemicals. Okay, I'm going to say that again. Locally sourced grown food in natural environments within the appropriate season, free from toxic chemicals. So that doesn't mean we're going to eat a watermelon in winter.
Yes.
Okay. Got it. And then, so like when you're buying organic foods, because not if you're buying from a farmer's market, there are, certain items that can be organic from them, but a lot of farmers cannot buy. If you're getting locally sourced grown food, a lot of farmers cannot get that certification for organic, but they don't use pesticides or chemicals. So it's best to know, education, right? Best to know the 12 types of fruits and vegetables that do contain elevated levels of pesticides. And you can get that full list on, actually EWG provides it, but it's called the Dirty Dozen, right? So the Dirty Dozen, you don't want to get those foods conventionally, right? So a strawberry, a spinach. The easy way to find this out is if it has a skin that you eat or a thin skin, then you want to get that organic. Strawberries, spinach, kale, collards, mustard greens, nectarines, apples, grapes, the list goes on, right? And then buy produce, like when you buy produce from a farmer's market or the grocery store, ask the farmer, is the food organic? Just ask them. They'll tell you. They have to. And then ask, do they spray? It's a simple question.
I love that.
So, if so, with what? Is it natural or artificial? Right? Yeah.
I love all this. And I love like that. I think sometimes, I know for me, I used to be afraid to ask. Like I'd be afraid to ask, like in some way I was being critical or judgmental. And one of the things that I found is in most cases, the farmers want to talk about their produce, like they want to talk about it. And I think this is really, really important. I feel really grateful. We just had Taylor, who works with us, who, the rock star that basically runs the entire back end of my business. She was out here from California and she was like, I am blown away about how most of the things that you wear, things that you eat, the products that you use, they're made locally. And I'm like, yeah, I know. We live in this really special place that, and our farmers market is, I would say 80% organic, and it's, just this incredibly beautiful place. However, not everyone can have access to those things. And I love this Dirty Dozen. I think this is so incredibly powerful because, like these are the things that especially being a parent, I know for me, again, one of the challenges that I've had with the kids is they love all of that, everything that you've just listed, all of those fruits. And it's often with things like nectarines, they get shipped from the US in our winter, and I'm like, no, you're not having a nectarine from America, because have a think about it. How far has it come? Yeah. And what did they have to put on it so that it looks like this when we like just think about that. And then
why is it extra shiny?
Exactly. Right. So I love this. I think it's so beautiful and practical. So what else can they do? What about as much as, one of the things that I learned in defensive food was, even the aisles in the supermarket. So you only want to shop in the outer aisles. So anything in the middle aisles is going to be, highly produced food. It's going to be this stuff. It's not like the fresh food. So what are the other things that people can be looking for when, maybe they're buying products that are like, I don't know, like what we call muesli bars for kids or something like that?
Oh my gosh. So yes, you are 100% correct. Shopping the perimeter of any supermarket would probably be, or market that you go to is going to be where the produce lines. The middle sections are the canned products and the box products and everything that is highly marketed. Don't be afraid to buy in bulk. And I'm talking about like the bulk section where you can buy your beans, legumes, all of those things. Don't be afraid to do that. It's super simple to prepare those items and you get away from the canned lined products. Okay. That's another one of my things to get away. Plastics, canned lines. And I do throw that into the food groups, right? What are you packing your food away in?
Yeah. Because it's leaching whatever it's in, right?
Right. And, like creating that baseline for yourself, keeping the items truly like you can start small, like creating a menu for yourself, and practicing that menu. Like, what do you like the most and how can you make substitute changes for that? Right. You can make the same dish over and over again and just add different things in there. It's really quite easy. Everyone's so attached to recipes and having them have to be exactly right. Work on what is back to what's within season. Another easy change, we mentioned not everyone can buy from a locally fresh farmer's market. Some people live in the cold, like dead of winter. Guess what? Sometimes you have amazing packaged frozen foods out there and they can be just as fresh. Okay. Yeah. Stocking up, soups and stuff and freezing them, buying those large quantities, investing in a slow cooker and stuff. So that's really good ways to preserve foods over time for yourself. So you have them in stock. It's about preparation, folks. Preparation creates key to success in maintenance. Okay.
I feel like that's a truth for every area of life. Like, if you plan and get organized, it will work. It will happen. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. But the food thing, I was kind of jumping into, and I want to tell more, the canned food, right?
Yeah.
The canned food. I'm going to invoke a little bit of fear into y'all, the BPA word. We've all heard about that. I know we have, but it's also translated into other letters, BPS, the marketing switches stuff around. So don't be fooled. So just get away with it. Just get away with the canned foods, buy in the bulk and prepare from there. Preparation equals success in maintenance. Okay. Don't become lazy, right? Preparation. Plan on the Sunday before for the week ahead, right? Make that pot of black beans. But bisphenol A, BPA, is found in most canned food liners, and it is, 100% a hormone disrupting chemical, and it's linked to male infertility, heart disease, and diabetes. So this is about that education. When you know the facts, you're not going to buy it. I guarantee you. You're not going to be like, yum, pick me up a can of that male infertility, heart disease, and diabetes, right? Yes.
Yeah.
And the other ingredients, the corn and the soybeans.
Oh, I was going to say, can you please talk about corn? Like, that's also something for me that's been such a big thing, So let's talk about corn, please.
Yeah. Especially from a girl that's from the Midwest and that they spray all those. I stay away from all of that. So these crops,
and it's all GMO. I think that's the other thing that I discovered, like, with corn, if you're buying corn, whether it's fresh corn, tinned corn, like they use corn in so many ways, in so many products that you don't even know. And most corn globally is GMO. It's actually created by, the seeds are created by Monsanto. Monsanto is one of the most evil companies on the planet. They created Roundup. Roundup again is destroying the environment.
Yes.
And most corn is GMO, and they don't know the long-term effects on the body of GMO products. So, corn is a big deal, and it's one of my kids' favorite foods. So we are constantly like, we only buy organic. We buy like a jar of corn that's like $10, and I'm like, okay, it's worth it not to get, the GMO. But yeah, that's a big issue. GMO and soybeans the same, right?
Yes, yes. These crops are heavily sprayed with the herbicide, as you mentioned, Roundup, and Roundup affects defensive enzymes our bodies use to keep us healthy. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and Roundup ready crops, right? That's what they are genetically engineered crops, as you mentioned, that have their DNA altered to allow them to withstand the herbicide. It's crazy. And therefore should be avoided. They should be 100% avoided. And you can avoid these simply by eating organic, right? Being very mindful about what your fork, your spoon, your knife, your chopsticks, your hands are putting in your mouth.
Yeah, I totally agree. And, especially when we started eating organic, it was really, really expensive. And sometimes I go into, Woolworths, which is one of the big, Woolies as we call it, one of the big supermarkets here. And, there's a celery for $12 that's organic. And you're like, okay, well, I'll just buy celery next week, so sometimes, but now it seems that it is becoming more and more affordable. I appreciate we're going into a time in the world where we're being told that there's food shortages and all of these sort of things. However, I would again encourage you just to do your own research and grow your own, if you live anywhere in the world, and I know there's a lot of the listeners that are going into winter, but, consider growing your own. Like we've got our whole veggie patch out in the garden, which means that we get to control, we've got organic seeds. We don't spray it with anything. We put flowers around it that help attract the bees and detract the bugs. Like there are other things that we can be doing, right?
Yes. Super simple. I mean, you can even things like microgreens really pack a big punch. There are those produce towers, the plant towers that you can get super simple. You can have all those all year round. You can get a hydroponic system, make an investment for yourself. You were mentioning something I hear all the time, and it's the most beautiful, glowing excuse I like to throw back into people's face, because I don't like excuses, is that, well, it's organic, and it's expensive, right? And I say, okay, wait. So you think the stuff that you put in your body is expensive, right? Over time, though, as we talked about, results speak louder than words. Over time, your healthcare, when you get older, how expensive is that going to be? Hospital bills, again, going back to leading by example, your children, you're leading them by example. How do you want them to live in the future? Do you want them to live with diabetes, heart disease, all of those items, right? Mm-hmm. Male infertility. Or do you want to feed them with a longevity, vitality, vigor? The cost really doesn't.
Exactly. I think it's the best, exactly the best advice, because at the end of the day, you're either going to pay now or pay later. That's basically simply put, you're going to pay now or you're going to pay later. And, the creating the healthy habits, it's all preventative, because ultimately the best healthcare is preventative healthcare, right? Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, I often talk about I'm 47. I'm pretty confident I don't look 47, and it's because I live a really healthy lifestyle. I don't feel 47 at all. I feel like I'm in my 30s. And I contribute so much of that to things like you were saying earlier as well, like sleep, good food, exercise, and all of those things. And I suppose I could really talk to you forever. There's so many other things that I'd like to ask, but we definitely have come to time. So I've got to respect your time. And there are so many other areas of toxicity. Like we haven't even talked about relationships. And even as I was speaking, I was like, exercise. Oh my God, toxic exercise. People like forcing themselves to do things or shaming themselves for not doing things. And there's so many places that we experience toxicity in our life. So wow, I feel like this is a much bigger conversation than the time avails. So thank you so much, Kate. It's been so beautiful talking to you.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. And if anyone has any other questions out there, they can reach me. I'm on Instagram at Just Being Honest KB, and Bean has no G, so it's BEIN. And then you can find me over on my website at justbeinghonest.com. If you want to book a consultation, ask me more questions, I am happy to help. And Emma, anytime you want to have me back on, we can continue on. I'll come to Australia if I have to.
Yeah, do it. Do it. We actually, it's really funny. We're watching this show at the moment on Netflix. It's called Down to Earth, and it's a Zac Efron and his buddy, I can't remember the guy's name, another biohacker, healthy human. And it's basically about whether it's businesses or anything that impacts the environment. It's really cool. And the series that he's just done, he actually talks about how he got stuck in Australia, and because he actually has been living where we live. And it's just so beautiful to see, Australia represented in such a beautiful world. So everyone, a beautiful way. So anyone listening to this, go and check it out on Netflix. It's called Down to Earth. I think it's called like Down Under Edition or something like that. It's really cool. And a lot of what we're talking about today, they cover in this show as well, which is really powerful. And please go check out Kate or KB's podcast, because it's brilliant and it's going to be a lot more information. And please reach out if you want to learn more and convert your life from maybe toxic to non-toxic. I love it. Thanks so much, KB, for being here. Thanks everyone for listening. It's been great to have you, and I look forward to having you on the next podcast. Bye for now.
Thanks everyone for being here all the way to the end of the podcast. I hope you got lots of value out of it. I certainly had a lot of fun doing it. Could I please ask that you share this podcast with friends if you found it valuable? And also, bonus points, could you leave a review for me as well on Apple? It would be greatly appreciated. If at any point you would like to be on the podcast, or you've got questions that you'd like me to discuss on the podcast, by all means get on my socials and DM me. Everything you need is there in the show notes. Have an awesome day. Bye for now.